G'day, Tragic here, and welcome to the voting compilation thread. Video thing, this thing that you're watching, maybe, someone might be. The point is, I'm correlating the votes here, and it's actually quite interesting. We got a great showing for Great Fire of London, and this is interesting because we got a great showing for the coin game Falling Sky last time. So it seems that there's definitely some interest on the channel from the users to have some non-thematic games, some games that are more thinky and Euro-ish. So that's really pleasing to me. So I'm definitely going to start doing some of those kind of things on the channel soon. So yeah, but Greatest Fire of London actually came in second with 39 votes, which is pretty impressive. And the second one was actually tied, dead even tie at 37 for Darkest Night and Trek Night. Came in dead even, 37 votes each. So voting really makes a difference. That's kind of why I split the vote up by having so many games this time, to try and get a little bit more of a race instead of these big runaway winners. Now, I know it's kind of disappointing if the one that you didn't get voted, but I'm taking everything into account, and I'm kind of, the idea of these votes is to not only pick a game in a sort of interactive, fun way, but also to get a sense of the kind of games people want to see. So anything that's coming in the first to third kind of point is something that will eventually 100% be played on the channel. But the big winner with 42, how many roads must a man walk down? The answer to everything. The great question even. Yggdrasil. Now, this is a great game. I'm really happy this game came out. Now, this is a short game. This is kind of like Ghost Stories. It's so hard, I'm going to crash and burn. So I might play this 2 or 3 times. But it's a nice short game. We'll be able to play it, get everyone happy, and then I'm going to move straight on to another game in this one list. I haven't decided whether it's going to be Great Fire of London. I might go straight to Darkest Night, just because I really want to play that as well. Trek Night I will definitely play, but I'm about maybe a couple of days away from finishing a new mod for Tabletop Simulator, so I might play that in Tabletop Simulator. I don't know. We'll see what people think. If you really don't want me to play it in Tabletop Simulator, it'll just have to wait until after Yggdrasil, and then we'll do a slot. Maybe what we'll do is after Yggdrasil, we'll play maybe 2 or 3 games of Yggdrasil, and then after Yggdrasil, we'll do a vote of just the top 5 games from this vote and just see which one of those, that narrowed down list, people want to see next. And that actually might be a good way to do it, to sort of allow people who've just missed out on their fave game getting on to sort of re-vote for the same list, but a shorter version of that list. So I think that's a pretty good idea. Anyway, Yggdrasil, man. Oh yeah, okay. This is a great game. So I'm going to get off the computer now and swip over to the live camera and set this baby up, and let's get started. So the first thing you're going to notice is that the board is gorgeous. The art in this game is fantastic. And just before we start, let's get this out of the way. I am Australian. My accent's pretty, clangy, kind of, like a clangy accent. I don't know I don't know anything about, Danish pronunciations and Vikings and all that kind of area of the world. So just apologies in advance for all the pronunciation errors. You're just going to have to deal with it because I can't pronounce them. So I'm just going to do my best. Feel free to put it in the comments and I'll try and correct myself. But prepare for lots of badly pronounced stuff. Anyway, so this is a game, and I'm not really going to go through the rules. If you want to see the rules, there's lots of rules videos, but it's very simple. You'll pick it up as the way. Basically, this game is all about probability factoring. You've got to work out your probability. See, what happens is there's all these bags, and the bags have Vikings in them, but also fire giants, and there's a known ratio. Like, you can look in the bags at any time. I usually play with bowls, but I'm playing with bags just for aesthetics. The point is, these Vikings are used to enhance your roll. So if you roll 2 axes and you have 2 Vikings, that's 4 axes. And a lot of the game is about spending action points, because you've only got so many action points, to take Vikings out of these bags and put Vikings into the bags to improve the chances of drawing Vikings when you randomly draw from the bag. And that's the major crux of this game, is basically probability management. Now, the game is pretty hard, so I don't think I'm going to be able to win. And this is one of those games that scales badly, as in it's easier with less characters. But in my opinion, the pure version of this game is all 6 characters, so that's how I always play it. I have beaten it a few times, and this is actually the reprint, the second edition. It's I think it's out of print again now, but it has the expansion built into it. So I've got all the extra gods. I think I'm missing one of the promo gods maybe, and it also has the new trance ability. Now, what this means is each god has its own power, and I randomly selected the gods and I'll go through their powers in a sec, but they can also, as an action, flip over, and then they have no actions the next time they come up, but they have a trance ability which kind of everyone shares in. It's extremely powerful, and even though you've got less actions, you're still drawing cards for them. Like, the monsters are still getting activated on their turn, so they can't beat them back, but some of these powers make a huge difference. And I think it really, really improved the game for me, because this is a great game. It's always been a great game, but it's kind of like Ghost Stories. It is so brutally hard that your choices are kind of forced on you. You don't really have a lot of decision making because you're always playing catch up. So, but then again, this is a game that has a huge following. You earn points, like your turns, even if you fail the game, has a points grade if you work it out. And there's like a worldwide leaderboard, and some of the scores people get are ridiculous. But again, they're usually using one character. Anyway, so we've randomly chosen a bunch of guys, and then we randomly chose their play order, because it does go in play order. Anyway, so let's start out with the first guy, Mengi. Now, his power is: the Vikings that Mengi use in combat are put in the bag of his choice instead of in the world of the dead. See, what happens is you have this, the Valkyries, they come and harvest the souls out of Midgard as they die in, whatever battles they're involved in. And they go into the bags, the various realms of the undead, and you can use their souls to power and fight, the gods. But as they die, they go back into the realm of the dead, and they need to be reborn back into Midgard so the Valkyries can get them. And that takes an action to move them from the realm of the dead into one of the bags of your choice, thus changing the probability ratio of drawing them, But anyway, the point is, this guy can they just go straight into the bag. So it saves you an action. And now his passive trance ability is: when the active god is fighting, one other god can help him by giving him any number of his own elves, Vikings, or any combination of the two groups. And that's really powerful. Basically, there's 2 types of ways to augment rolls. You've got Vikings and you've got elves. I mean, there's other ways, but they're the 2 main ways. Now, the interesting thing is Vikings need to be assigned before you roll, but elves can be assigned after you roll. And this guy's trance ability means that other Vikings can help him out. Again, this is an action-saving thing. It saves you from using trade actions. It's very, very strong. Next, we have Sif. Sif can play 3 times on the Dwarven Forge for only 1 action. All the artifacts bonuses are increased by 1 is her trance ability. So this is ridiculously strong. Basically, there's an artifact deck, and each artifact is particularly good at fighting one type of god. Well, it only fights one type of god. And there's 3 levels of it. So the first time you access the deck, you can choose whatever you want. It's not drawn. You get like a level 1 hammer, a level 2 hammer, and a level 3 hammer, and it's like +3 to any roll. Now, she can activate the location and just pick up the level 3 artifact straight away. So her job is to take these artifacts, get every single level 3, even more than level, get all the level artifacts she can, and send them out and trade them with the other gods, as well as, fighting people. And then once she's sort of emptied that deck, she's just going to flip over and give everyone +1. Next, we have Freya. Oops, it's actually Frey, not Freya. Oops, it's her brother. She's one of my favorites. Basically, every hero gets 3 actions. She gets 4. Now, she's still restricted to the 1 action per area, but she can just take a 4th action. She becomes particularly good at fighting, in my opinion. Now, her secondary trance ability is, on the sacred lands, the gods apply all the effects of the track up to and including the point where Valenia is. Then it is put back to the first place on the track. Now, you'll see this in action. The Valenia track is one of the harder tracks to use because its abilities don't seem really apparent until you're well into it. Get off it, cat. Basically, you have to spend actions to drive it up the track, and then you have to spend an action to activate it, and it activates whatever point on the track it is. Her ability means that you can activate it and every point below. Very, very strong, but not as strong as fighting 2 at once. Next, we have Vidar. In combat, every elf that Vidar uses before rolling the dice counts for 2 elves. So this is another very, very cool ability. Now remember, like I said, elves are very, very good because you can assign them after you roll, which means that you can kind of modify an existing roll. So the trick is you always try and roll with enough Vikings -1, because you can only usually use 1 elf, right? So it's like, well, maybe you can use more than 1. I'll have to check how many elves you can use, but basically you always sort of, whatever elf count you have, whatever elves you can apply, I think it's only 1. I will check the rules before I start. But, I mean, it's been like years since I've played. The point is, the trick to be successful in this game, in my opinion, is to whenever you roll, to try and hit the gods every turn. And when you roll with enough Vikings minus whatever elves you can apply. So, say I need a 5 to knock back, Loki. I'll roll a dice and I'll roll with 4 Vikings. And then if I need, I can add 1 elf. And then I'm pretty much guaranteed I'm always going to knock him back or whatever. But the thing is, he has to actually apply the elves first, but they're worth 2 points. It's pretty strong. I haven't actually used him before. When they play on the world of elves, the gods can discard an elf and take 4 Vikings from the world of the dead instead of taking an elf. Okay, so that's interesting. So you can use an action. So let me just break this down. You can use an action to get an elf, or you can use an action to take Vikings out of the bag with the possibility of taking fire giants, which are, discarded. So this ability allows you to get more Vikings, but at the cost of elves. It's an interesting ability. I'm not sure about that one. Next, we have Frigg. I think Frigg was actually the promo, so I do have the promo. Whatever. When Frigg looks for souls in Midgard, she places the fire giant she finds in the Kingdom of Fire. Now, this is all about the probability modifications, and any of the abilities that change the probability of the bag drawers are the most powerful, in my opinion. So what happens is, if you go to draw Vikings from the bags, each bag has a known quantity of fire giants to Vikings. So you draw it out and you keep the Vikings, and the fire giants go back in the bag. So as you draw, the probabilities of the bag gets worse and worse. Not so when Frigg does it. She can draw and it actually improves the bag's odds in a way. So if you pull out fire giants, they're gone. It's the same. There's actually an ability on the board where you go and hunt down the fire giants and get them off Midgard. And that's, it's sort of like combining those 2 actions into 1 action. I love it. When they play on the Kingdom of Fire, the gods remove 5 fire giants from the bag of their choice. If there are less than 5 giants left, all of them are removed. Now, what this means is, this is what I was just saying. When you activate the Kingdom of Fire or whatever, you reach into the bags, but instead of pulling out Vikings, you're pulling out and removing the giants, improving the odds of the bag draw. But it's still random, because, you might reach in and pull out 5 tokens and 4 of them are Vikings, so you've wasted an action to get rid of 1 fire giant. But with her trance ability, you just choose 5 fire giants straight up. Very, very strong. Like I say, anything that changes probability is my favorite abilities. And finally, we have Odin, King Popper. At the beginning of his turn, Odin draws 2 enemy cards instead of 1, chooses which one he wants to play, and puts the other one back or under the deck. Now, this is an ability that a lot of people dislike, because no matter what happens, you're still drawing a card and everyone's still moving forward. But there are some monsters, particularly Fenrir the Wolf and I guess Loki to an extent, but there's like, I think there's this green sort of slimy monster that sort of pulls other monsters with it. There's a lot of really bad monsters, and being able to, especially when it's really tight at the end of the game where everyone's like encroaching into the palace and you're like, no, get the hell away. It's like, if anyone else moves, I'm fine, but if that particular guy moves, it's game over. That's when Odin becomes awesome. And his ability is, his trance ability. When they play on the ice fortress and defeat a giant, the gods discard the giant of their choice, one who is active or one who is still in the deck. So basically, as the game continues, Loki's ability is that he basically has an army of fire giants, and they have all these kind of nasty modifications to the game, like they reduce the amount of axes you have, or they add more things, or whatever. They're not cool. And what this ability allows you to do is actually choose them from the deck and discard them. I'm not a big fan of this ability, mainly because I'm not pro enough at the game to really understand which fire giants are the worst. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Well, that's pretty much the setup. And I won't go through this every single time. I'm planning, depending on how quick it goes, we'll probably play 2, maybe even 3 games of this. So we'll see all the gods in action, because we'll use the remaining gods haven't been used in this episode. We'll use in the next session. And then in the last session, I'll actually go to the Yggdrasil, forum and ask some of the pros there at Board Game Geek what they think is a really good god selection, and we'll use that selection. And that's about it. So, yeah, as I said, the first couple of turns will be a bit slow as I go through everything that's happening, but this is one of those games that will speed up greatly, and it's actually quite a quick game to play. So, well, let's get into it. See you guys next time.